Hi, and welcome back to goingballistic.org, the podcast. I'm Donna Carter, founder and president of Going Ballistic. Thanks for being here. Hello, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hello.
Today, like I said, this is Going Ballistic's podcast, and we are honored to have a guest today, Chris Marsh, who is retired Dallas Police Department, as well as our Vice President, Matt Coffin, retired Texas Ranger. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure thing.
Chris, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I hired on with the Dallas Police Department in 1990. I was fresh out of Bible college and was there until 2018. Retired as a patrol supervisor. Most of my experience was in patrol, but also taught at the academy on an adjutant level. So.
I was fortunate enough to get to hear about Chris. He also has a ministry that I heard about. It's a shooting ministry. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a shooting fellowship that we began about 4 years ago and run strong. We go the second Saturday of every month early in the morning. And we have a fellow that's got a few acres over here, and we have about a 10-station shooting steel, and it's ever growing, and it's a lot of fun, teaching people firearms, respect for firearms, and just using it as a fellowship medium, and also teaching as well.
Good deal. So I know you've got some experience firsthand. Matt, did you want to say anything before we let Chris kind of tell us a little bit about what he knows about ballistic equipment?
Well, I mean, I think that's why we're here. We're Dallas is a big city police department with a lot of resources, and I think we would like to hear from someone like Chris who has actually used ballistic shields and in his patrol duties, supervising duties, and to let our viewers know that a ballistic shield is an extremely useful tool in certain situations. It's not something that the police are going to carry on them or to every contact they have with the general public, but there are certain times when a ballistic shield is invaluable, and our rural partners, the small police agencies, the small sheriff's departments just don't have the resource. If he could tell us a little bit about that and let the viewers know and get the word out that we really just need to get this life-saving tool to those who need it the most.
Well, the use of this tool and its evolution is significant because at the beginning, only SWAT had shields. When I left, the shield was in my trunk. So I don't know if y'all remember Dallas Police SWAT when they were on A&E, and they used to come on and say, when people need help, they call the police. When the police need help, they call us, SWAT. And we gave them a lot of trouble for that. They heard a lot about that. But the truth is, my first experience with the shield was shortly after Columbine. Shortly after Columbine, we had a hostage situation in a middle school in Dallas. It was Florence Middle School, and a guy had taken a pistol to school. He was in a corner on the second floor near a window, and he had a room full of hostages that was nearby that nobody could leave that room, and he was yelling threats, and we kind of got him cornered. When I began police work, we were containment, right? You did call in SWAT for any active engagement, and you contained, and that's all changed now. That's all changed. And so this shield experience was at the very beginning of my career. And so SWAT did get there. 2 guys had shields. We were down the stairs from the guy with the gun. he was threatening to come down, and my partner, to use church language, said, if you come down those stairs, it'll be your bobo. So that's my church version of that. And so he believed us, so he didn't come down the stairs. So we had him cornered. SWAT got there. There were 2 shields. They converged upon him and basically reached over and took the pistol from him. And that was in the 90s. Okay. Well, when I hired on, we had 86 SWAT. When I retired, we had 26. So what that means is as a patrol supervisor in downtown Dallas, East Dallas, and Uptown, I had the shield in my trunk. And in the old days, if we had a barricaded person or hostage, we would call SWAT and just sit and wait and contain. SWAT went from 86 to 26. Now, when I call the SWAT commander, he says, if it's exigent, you just have to go ahead and take care of it. So now the shield's coming out of my trunk, and someone is holding that shield, and we're using that as a breaching tool, essentially, to protect us from what's called the fatal funnel. So you have 2 situations where the shields are very applicable. One, obviously, in a scenario where you have an active shooter situation, but also even in the domestic violence situations or drug-induced psychosis or whatever, that shield protects you at that doorway, at what's called the fatal funnel.
Chris, just what you said right there, fatal funnel. I'm going to take you back then to what you know, or what you've seen on the media, or what you know from people who may have been in Uvalde. What did they face that day?
Well, there's the uncertainty. You don't know where that suspect is, and the things that have changed.
But
Didn't
they face that fatal funnel you're talking about, and explain what that is to our viewers?
Well, and particularly in a house situation, the door that you go into is what the person inside is watching and waiting with a pistol. My friend was murdered, Norm Smith, in 2009, standing outside the doorway of a dope house. He was shot through the door and was murdered, and he was like a brother to me. So where you enter someone else's space is the most dangerous point. And that shield in a house situation is meant to carry you through that doorway to your objective. And in a school situation, once you find the person and get them kind of secured, is where your shield is most effective. Now, the shield that I saw y'all display in the press conference, I was very impressed by the weight of it. The shields that I carried were very heavy, much, much heavier than what you were talking about, and very difficult to maneuver with. That, to have it so light, is a blessing, and to have a couple of them working in tandem. I think something that Donna said that I heard her say before, to have 2 of them, there's just so much you can do with that. To have 2 working in tandem, there's just a lot of tactics that you can deploy. And I think the shield is most effective in the school situation. Once you get that person kind of contained, then you can move in together and address that threat without being in so much danger.
Chris, a lot of our viewers may not know what you know, and of course they don't have your experience. Let's break it down a little bit more basic. Who are if there is a situation, a let's call it a critical incident, who is the first people to arrive? SWAT team or the patrol?
Yeah, obviously whoever's closest to the location, so it's going to be patrol. And
absolutely.
In a city like Dallas, SWAT is a unit. In most of your sheriff's department, your SWAT guys are also patrol guys. So you'll have a guy that does cross training. So one of your SWAT guys may show up, but he may or may not have, depending on what equipment he has with him.
In your experience, is this something that a small police department outside of Dallas or a small sheriff's department outside of Dallas, would they have access to a SWAT team of their own, or would they call one of the maybe one of the cooperating partners to send their SWAT team?
Depends on the size of the department. We have 2 counties near where I live. One is very, very well equipped, and the other is not so well equipped. There's a vast difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having a shield to one of these agencies that is not so well equipped, could mean the difference between life and death. True? Would you say that's true?
Yeah, it's an absolute game changer. Dallas was attacked twice. Before the downtown Dallas, when we lost 5 officers, we were attacked by a man in an armored van. That man in that armored van was wearing a heavy vest. So while we were trying to engage him and neutralize him, he was taking rounds to the vest and still fighting. And that was also true of the man who attacked our people in downtown Dallas. He was also wearing heavy equipment. He was hit in the vest and continued to fight. So not only do we need it to address an active shooter or a mass shooter, but even to come to the game on a level playing field, these bad guys are equipped. They can afford it. They do whatever it takes to access this heavy equipment. So, yeah.
Matt, we lost your camera. Technical difficulties.
While we're recovering him, one of my friends, one of my subordinates that was on the guy that attacked our headquarters when he got his van stuck and couldn't go anywhere else, he said that he actually hit the guy with the AR in the vest, and all he did was remind him to close the van door because he was equipped with rifle resistant armor. And so in the day that we live in this, we really saw this in 1997, the Bank of America robbery. Those guys were Kevlar'd up. We don't live in a day where the bad guys just come in with some 38 special or Saturday night special. They're very well equipped. And we need to come prepared to win and to save people and not just be lambs to the slaughter when we get there.
Well, and that's why I think having that first conversation with Matt after Uvalde and realizing that, yes, just the ease and mobility of the equipment available, and yet the lack of it, period, is just baffling to me. $5,600 for the shield we purchased is a lot of money. And I know, departments are going to not be able to have that, but part of Going Ballistic's mission is to just talk about it, is to get the word out that this is a piece of equipment that needs to be in every department. When he and I first had our conversation, he said he thought every first responder ought to have it. And I agree. A lot of time it's the fire department or, and here again, if the department can have one or access to one, I think they should.
Anybody in harm's way. And you stand in good company historically. The reason the Dallas Police Department began to carry semi-automatic pistols partly was because Ross Perot said we need to get this done, and he began to go to work. And that's when Dallas moved from revolvers to SIGs, because someone said, "Hey, this isn't good. You guys are outmatched. You're not up with the latest technology." And we've all got iPhones, and I'm sitting here in front of my MacBook Pro, and we all know we have to keep up. And the difference is if we don't keep up with technology, it's an inconvenience. If you don't keep up in the police world, then you die. And we're not hiring people to send them to the butcher shop. We're hiring people to protect and to serve and to go back home. And that's one of the biggest things that when I was training and teaching, and we were doing reality-based training, in a political climate of, please don't ever use deadly force. We don't want to. But the statistics tell us that once you hear one for a gunshot, a person dies every second after it begins. And that is when we begin to move from containment to engagement as a police culture and as a best practice.
Well, and I think looking at the statistics, looking at the information we know, and again, setting aside what, the big conversations about gun control and things like that, and just asking if it were to happen tomorrow, then what do we need to do today to prepare? And
the sheriff said it. The sheriff said it in your press conference. It's always easier when someone comes from the outside and supplies. Always. anything that you ever try to do governmentally, whether it's in a city, a county, a country, or a church, when you have to vote on it, you have to go through all the red tape and the minutia. It's like what they say about dialing 911. The reason that you should be prepared to protect yourself. How long is it going to take 911 to get there? We should all be prepared at some level, to protect ourselves and our families. So.
You're back.
Hey, everybody, I'm back. I had a glitch there. I caught the last part of that, and I want to emphasize that in my experience over the years, equipment is so crucial. Equipment is sometimes hard to get budget wise, and we even used to kind of joke in the Texas Rangers that we get the best equipment. We get the best equipment low bud. We get the best equipment that low bid will buy, and that's just the way government runs. And
that's the way government runs, and that's why SWAT cars don't run.
Well, and that's why when oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to echo what the sheriff said, is that they have applied for state grants to buy shields. It's been a year since Uvalde, and they still don't have a shield. What does that tell you? There's too much red tape. Going ballistic is a real solution right now. All we need is for our listeners and our supporters to get behind us, and we will be giving out shields immediately.
And we have. We haven't talked about that, but the press conference that Chris is talking about is day before yesterday on the 21st of February. Going Ballistic gave a rifle-resistant ballistic shield, the one that was donated to us by HighCom Armor, which we're so proud to have had them do that and have their support and their belief in our mission. And so, and we even had that shield for a minute, just to kind of get organized to be able to have the press conference and get the word out. Because one of the things that made me so mad when I found out about what happened is I thought, well, I can raise $5,600. I mean, if my baby's going to school tomorrow or going to shop at the grocery store or whatever it is, I mean, wouldn't our county gladly pay $5,600 to know, or if it's 2 shields, right, then it's that, which I'm not great at math, but I guess I should already know that amount. Because the day before, it seems like so much money, but the day after, it's just ridiculous how achievable it would be to make sure that every county, everybody has access to this equipment. And that's my goal, and that's my passion. Like if we can get it into the hands of as many people as possible, and if one life is saved, we've, I think, done a good job.
I think there's some common sense things too that we can really encourage people as a police culture, as a ministry culture, whatever, besides obviously return to God, but control your children, control your firearms. If you have firearms in your home, they should be in a safe, they should be secured, and your children or youth should not have access to them. In a lot of these mass shootings, these kids are getting guns that are in their house and committing these crimes, and parents, I mean, they should be secured. And I think that's something that we need to kind of emphasize, and that might preclude some things.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversations that aren't being had that we can definitely shine the light in some dark places rather than going around the same mountain all the time.
Yeah, we talked about Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman and his sheepdog movement, and he is an absolute subject matter expert on this. And he has tied the video games and all of that to these, and these guys follow that template. I have a friend that was at the pistol range for 15 years, and he's done a PowerPoint on the relationship between that and these shootings, and they follow a script. They go in, the count is important to them. They'll shoot as many people as they can. They'll walk up and assassinate after having just winged them or dropped them. There is a script that is followed in these mass shootings that is inspired by entertainment. And as parents, we have to not permit our kids to do that. When my kids were teenagers, they didn't play Grand Theft Auto. They didn't do it. And there's a direct relationship. We need to understand that. And that's one of the prongs of what we need to deal with if we can.
Yes.
I tell you, I would not relish the idea of raising children in the culture we have today. I mean, there's so much pressure on these children to conform, to do the things their friends are doing, and I guess it's just been made worse by the video games, the violent video games like Grand Theft Auto. There's a practical
response to that, and that's what we're doing with our shooting fellowship. Boys like guns, and they're curious. Okay, James Dobson, the child psychologist, said if you take all your toy guns away from a boy, he'll chew a piece of bread into a gun. If we teach our kids how to use firearms, and we teach them safety, and we teach them responsibility, the thing about teenagers is they yearn to actuate their fantasies. So if we teach them young and we engage them and we show them how to use these tools, which is what they are, properly, then we kind of take them out of that fantasy zone and we give them experience instead.
Yes, and we know, and David Grossman talks about it, but we know that doing it, the desensitizing to killing, works. I mean, that's why we use it in our training and we use it in our military. It's not, and that's why if we could just set aside the emotion and just look at the facts, and we know that is happening, and address that, rather than wait, the day after and try to scratch our head and say, what about the kid or whatever, because it's too late. And I personally don't know what to do, but so I'm not going to do nothing. This may not be a solution to all of our problems. Like, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, but this does at least eliminate a problem and give a solution that can be utilized immediately.
Let me give you, you're giving people the courage to move forward and do what they need to do. You're making them not lambs to the slaughter. I was in a gunfight in 2002. I've got shrapnel on my head from a guy that was shooting at me with an SKS 7.62 rifle. Nothing that I had that day was going to protect me apart from my guardian angel. So it's a lot nicer when you have something to take with you into that situation. While I was engaging the guy, I was shooting back at him. I had friends that were hiding behind the squad car in the fetal position, and it's understandable. It's understandable. Some people engage, some people don't. But what you're doing is you're empowering people to move forward and do their job without just making themselves a human sacrifice. And that's important.
It is. It's vital.
Folks, I'm going to have to leave this.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead, Matt. I know we're running, and I was going to try to wrap it up. I wanted to let you say whatever you need to say.
Well, I want to thank Chris for coming on our podcast today and sharing his experience with our viewers. It is so important that we get the proper tools, and it's not something that can wait a week or a month or a year. You never know. We never know when that next active shooter is going to target a school, target a daycare, or something equally, an office building, anywhere. And we've got to stop the killing. And the only way to stop the killing is to give our police all the tools necessary to get the job done. And if we don't give them the tools, then we can only look to ourselves to blame.
And I would say, if you're in a rural area, thank you for having me. If you're in a rural area, talk to your sheriff and have them get on the list with Donna, because I'm hearing her say we're trying to decide who to get to next. She should have a list. There should be a waiting list.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're in the area, talk to your sheriff and get on that list.
All right. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Matt, as always. Chris,
Bye-bye.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.